The envelope sat on my kitchen table for 3 days before I opened it. White, business-sized, my daughter's handwriting on the front. No return address. I knew what it was before I broke the seal. Papers, legal ones, the kind that end things formally. What I did not expect was the photograph tucked inside, a girl of maybe 12, dark hair pulled back, looking directly at the camera with eyes that knew something the rest of her face was not ready to admit. On the back, in different handwriting, looping and careful, Emma, thought you should know she exists. I set the photo down next to the custody paperwork my daughter was filing to ensure I never saw this child. My hands were steady. They had been for years. My daughter Caroline had told me at 23 that I had ruined her life. She said it in my living room, standing near the bookshelf her mother and I had built together, her voice flat and certain. I asked what I had done. She listed my crimes. I worked too much. I expected too much. I did not understand her. When she got pregnant at 19 and I suggested she wait, think it through, consider her options, she heard judgment. When I offered to help financially if she kept the baby, she heard control. When I said nothing at all after she cut contact, she heard abandonment. I heard the door close. That was 11 years ago. Now I was looking at a girl who carried half my daughter's features and, I suspected, all her anger. The custody papers were clear. Caroline had filed to formalize what was already reality. I was not to contact Emma. I was not to attempt visits. If I challenged this, Caroline would pursue a restraining order. There was a phrase in the legal text, history of emotional harm. I folded the papers along their original creases and placed them back in the envelope. The photograph stayed out. I made coffee the next morning the way I always did. French press, water just off the boil, 4 minutes. I ate oatmeal at the table, reading the news on my tablet. I had been a civil engineer before I retired, designing water treatment systems, solving problems that required patience and math. My work taught me that pressure applied correctly over time could change the course of rivers. Applied incorrectly, it broke things. I looked at Emma's photograph between bites. After breakfast, I walked. My neighborhood was older, trees tall enough to meet over the streets, sidewalks cracked by roots. I passed houses I had watched families move into and out of for 30 years. At the corner, Mrs. Alvarez was watering her roses. She waved. I waved back. We did not speak. We never did, but the gesture mattered. I thought about Caroline while I walked. She had been a serious child, the kind who asked why the sky was blue and then wanted to know the chemistry behind it, not the easy answer. Her mother died when she was 14. Cancer, quick and brutal. Caroline withdrew. I did not know how to reach her, so I made sure she had what she needed: structure, stability. I thought those were gifts. She thought they were bars. By the time I returned home, I had decided what to do. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and began a document. At the top, I wrote, timeline. Below that, I listed every interaction I could remember with Caroline from the day she told me she was pregnant to the day she left. I wrote down dates, what was said, what I said, what I wish I had said. I did not editorialize. I did not justify. I simply recorded. It took 3 hours. When I finished, I printed it, hole-punched the pages, and placed them in a binder. Then I started a second document. This one I titled Emma. Under her name, I wrote questions. When was she born? Where did Caroline go after she left? Who was the father? Did Emma know about me? What had Caroline told her? I did not have answers, but writing the questions gave them shape. That evening, I called my brother, Daniel. He lived 2 states away, worked in insurance, and had stayed neutral when Caroline cut contact. Neutral meant he still spoke to her occasionally, still got updates, still knew things I did not. I need to know where Caroline is, I told him. Daniel was quiet for a moment. She sent you the papers. She did. And you are not letting it go. I need to understand, I said. That is all. He sighed. The sound came through the line like static. She is in Oregon, small town near the coast. She works at a clinic. That is all I know. The girl, I said. Emma. Do you know anything about her? I know Caroline is raising her alone. I know she is doing her best. Leave it, Tom. Thank you, I said, and ended the call. I did not tell him I was not leaving it. I simply needed to know if there was a path forward, and paths required information. The next day, I searched property records online. Oregon was a large state, but Daniel's mention of a clinic narrowed it. I cross-referenced Caroline's name with business licenses and found her listed as a medical assistant at a community health center in a town called Birch Bay. Population 4,000. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's history by Tuesday. I looked up the clinic's website. There was a staff page. Caroline's photograph was professional, her hair shorter than I remembered, her face composed. She looked older. I supposed I did too. I did not call the clinic. I did not book a flight. I simply noted the information and added it to the binder. Instead, I did something quieter. I opened a savings account in Emma's name, seeded it with $10,000, and set up automatic monthly deposits. The account was structured so she could access it when she turned 18. There was no letter, no explanation, just numbers accumulating silently in a bank system. If Caroline wanted me gone, I would be gone. But I would not let the girl grow up believing no one cared whether she had a foundation. Weeks passed. I kept my routines. I volunteered at the library on Tuesdays, tutoring adults working toward their GEDs. I played chess at the park on Thursday afternoons with a rotating group of retirees who took the game more seriously than war. I cooked simple meals, read dense books, kept the house in order. But the binder grew. I found Caroline's social media accounts. They were sparse, privacy settings high, but I could see glimpses. A photo of Emma at a science fair, holding a ribbon. Another of the two of them on a hiking trail. Emma grinning, Caroline's arm around her shoulders. The posts were infrequent, careful. Nothing about me. Nothing about the past. I did not comment. I did not request to follow. I simply observed. Then, in late October, I received a phone call. The number was unfamiliar, Oregon area code. I almost let it go to voicemail, but answered on the fourth ring. Is this Thomas Brennan? A woman's voice, young, uncertain. It is. This is Emma Brennan. A pause. I think you are my grandfather. I sat down. My kitchen chair creaked under the shift. I am. I found some papers, she said. Old mail my mom kept in a box. Your address was on one of them. I looked you up online. There was a photo of you from some engineering award thing. You look like my mom. I suppose I do. Silence. Not uncomfortable, but full. Like she was deciding whether to continue. Why does not my mom talk about you? She asked finally. That is a complicated question, I said. I am 12. I can handle complicated. I believed her. Her voice carried the same serious quality Caroline's had at that age, the same expectation that adults would treat her as an equal if she asked directly. Your mother and I had a disagreement, I said. When she was younger, she felt I did not support her the way she needed. She may have been right. About what? About me not understanding what she needed. I gave her structure when she wanted empathy. I gave her advice when she wanted listening. I thought I was helping. She thought I was controlling. Emma was quiet again. Then, she does that to me sometimes. Does what? Decides what I need before asking. I closed my eyes. Patterns repeating, generations folding into each other. It comes from love, I said, but that does not always make it right. Are you going to tell her I called? Do you want me to? I do not know yet. Maybe not. She gets upset when I ask about you. Says it is not my business. But you are my grandfather. How is that not my business? You are correct, I said. It is your business. Can I call you again? Yes. She hung up without saying goodbye. I stared at the phone in my hand, feeling the weight of something shifting. Not broken, not fixed. Just moving. She called again a week later, then 2 days after that. The conversations were short, careful. She told me about school, about a project on coastal erosion she was working on. I told her about water systems, how rivers changed. Of course, how you could predict flooding if you paid attention to the land. She asked good questions. I gave her real answers. I did not mention the money I was putting away for her. I did not ask about Caroline. We stayed in the safe zone, the place where curiosity lived without consequence. But I knew it would not last. In early December, Emma called during school hours. Her voice was tight. My mom found the call log. She knows. What did she say? That I betrayed her. That you are dangerous. That I do not understand what you did. What do you think I did? I do not know. She will not tell me. She just keeps saying you ruined everything. But you do not sound like someone who ruins things. You sound like someone who fixes them. My throat tightened. People can do both. Are you going to stop talking to me? Not unless you want me to. I do not want you to. Then I will not. She hung up. I sat at the table staring at the binder that now held months of research, observations, notes. I had been preparing for something without knowing what. Now I knew. Caroline called that night. I recognized the number from the papers she had sent months before. Stay away from my daughter, she said. No greeting, no preamble. She called me, I said, because you gave her your information. I did not. She found it. I do not believe you. That is your choice. You do not get to do this, Dad. You do not get to come back in and pretend you care after everything. I never pretended, I said. You do not understand what it was like. You never did. Then help me understand. She laughed. It was sharp and short. You had your chance. You chose work and rules and disappointment. You do not get another chance with my kid. She is also my granddaughter. She is mine, Caroline said. I raised her. I sacrificed everything to give her a life that did not have you in it. You do not get to undo that because she is curious. I am not trying to undo anything. I am answering her questions. Stop. Answering. The line went dead. I set the phone down, feeling the old weight of failure settle back into my shoulders. But beneath it was something new. Not defiance exactly. Clarity. I opened my laptop and started a letter. Not to Caroline, to Emma. It began. If you are reading this, it means enough time has passed for you to make your own decisions. I wrote for 2 hours. I explained what happened with Caroline. I did not justify. I did not blame. I laid out the facts, the conversations, the choices made. I explained that I thought providing structure was the same as providing love, that I did not realize until too late that people need both and they are not interchangeable. I wrote about her grandmother, how she would have known what to say to Caroline in ways I did not. I wrote about regret, about how it lives in the space between what you did and what you wish you had done. I wrote about the account I had opened for her, the money I put away every month, not because I expected gratitude, but because I wanted her to have options. I ended with this. You do not owe me anything. Not forgiveness, not understanding, not contact. But you deserve to know that someone saw you and thought you mattered. You do. I printed the letter, placed it in an envelope, and put it in the binder. Then I wrote on the outside, to be opened by Emma Brennan on her 18th birthday. I mailed a copy to my attorney with instructions to hold it until Emma turned 18, then send it to whatever address was on record for her. If Caroline moved, if things changed, the letter would find her eventually. Then I waited. Emma did not call for 3 weeks. I assumed Caroline had taken her phone, blocked my number, locked down access. I did not try to reach her. That would have been the thing Caroline expected, the thing that would justify her fear that I could not be trusted to respect boundaries. So I went back to my routines. Tutoring on Tuesdays, chess on Thursdays, long walks where I thought about pressure and time and how systems change. Then, in early January, I received an email. The address was unfamiliar, clearly created recently, a random string of numbers and letters. The message was short. Mom took my phone, using the library computer. I am not allowed to talk to you, but I wanted you to know I am okay. Also, I think she is wrong. Emma. I did not reply. Replying would create a record. Instead, I went to the library and found the same computer she had used, left a note under the keyboard. I am glad you are okay. Be patient with your mom. Sometimes people who are hurt others without meaning to. T. I did not know if she would find it, but leaving it felt like enough. February came. The weather turned cold. I kept the house warm, the garden dormant, but planned for spring. I read books about reconciliation, about family systems, about how people carry trauma and pass it forward until someone decides to stop carrying. In March, my phone rang. Daniel. Caroline called me, he said. She is furious. She thinks you are manipulating Emma. I spoke to her a few times. That is all. She says Emma is asking questions. Why you were not around. What happened between you two? She says you are poisoning her daughter against her. I told Emma the truth, that I made mistakes, that I did not understand what Caroline needed. That does not mean Caroline was wrong to leave. She does not see it that way. I know. Daniel sighed. What do you want from this, Tom? What is the end game? I want Emma to know she has options. That is all. Options are threatening when you have worked hard to control the narrative. I am not trying to control anything. I am trying to give a child information so she can decide for herself. That is not how Caroline sees it. I know, I said again. After Daniel hung up, I sat at the table and stared at Emma's photograph. Still there, after all these months. She looked like Caroline. She looked like me. She looked like someone who deserved better than silence. I opened the binder and read through the timeline, the notes, the letter I had written. Then I added one more document. At the top, I wrote, what I would say if I had the chance. It was not a plan. It was not strategy. It was simply this. I am sorry I did not know how to be what you needed. I am sorry I thought strength meant silence and love meant rules. I am sorry I let you leave without fighting to understand. I am sorry I let years pass without trying to repair what was broken. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am not asking to be part of your life. I am simply saying I see what I did, and I see why it hurt you, and I am sorry. I printed it, placed it in the binder, and closed the cover. Spring came slowly, the way it does in places where winter digs in. By April, the garden was showing green, tulips pushing through soil I had turned in the fall. I planted tomatoes, peppers, herbs, work that required attention and time, but gave results you could measure. In May, I received a letter, not from Caroline, from Emma. Handwritten, 3 pages, careful script. She wrote about school, about a summer program in marine biology she wanted to attend. She wrote about her mother, how they fought now about things that did not matter because the real things were too big to name. She wrote about feeling stuck between loyalty and curiosity, between what she was told and what she felt. She ended with, I do not know if I will ever meet you. Mom says I cannot. But I wanted you to know I am glad you exist. I am glad I called, even if it is complicated, especially because it is complicated, because that means it is real. I read the letter 3 times, then placed it in the binder. I did not write back. Her return address was the clinic. Caroline would see anything I sent. So I waited. Summer passed. I tended the garden. The tomatoes came in heavy, more than I could eat. I gave boxes to neighbors, dropped them at the food bank, left bags on porches for people I barely knew. The work of growing things is easy. The work of sharing them is where the meaning lives. In August, 2 weeks before Emma's 13th birthday, I received another call, this time from Caroline. I am going to say this once, she said. Emma wants to meet you. I told her no. She cried for 2 days, so I am allowing it. 1 meeting, supervised, neutral location. You do not get to make promises. You do not get to offer her things I cannot provide. You answer her questions and then you leave. Understood. I mean it, Dad. 1 meeting. Do not make me regret this. I will not. We will be in your city next month. There is a conference at the hospital. I am bringing Emma. We can meet at the park near the waterfront. September 15th, 2 o'clock. I will be there. She hung up without another word. I stood in my kitchen, feeling something I had not felt in years. Not hope, exactly. Hope implied expectation. This was quieter. A door, slightly open. I spent the next 3 weeks preparing. Not words, not speeches. I simply made sure I was steady. I got a haircut. I bought a new shirt. I walked the park twice to know the layout, to find a bench with good light, to make sure I understood the space. On September 15th, I arrived early. The park was busy. Families with children, dogs on leashes, joggers cutting through on their lunch breaks. I sat on the bench I had chosen, hands folded, waiting. At 2 o'clock, I saw them. Caroline walked slightly ahead, her posture stiff, defensive. Emma trailed behind, looking around, searching. When she saw me, she stopped, just for a second. Then she walked forward. Caroline followed, her hand on Emma's shoulder like an anchor. They reached the bench. Emma looked at me with those same serious eyes from the photograph, the ones that knew something the rest of her face had not caught up to. "Hi," she said. "Hi, Emma." Caroline stood to the side, arms crossed. "You have an hour." I nodded. "Do you want to sit?" Emma sat. Caroline stayed standing. We talked. I asked about school, about the marine biology program, about what she was reading. She asked about engineering, about how you design something that lasts, about whether I thought systems could be fixed once they were broken. I told her yes, systems could be fixed. It just required understanding where the break happened and whether all the parts wanted to be repaired. She looked at her mother when I said that. Caroline looked away. After 45 minutes, Caroline said, "Time." Emma stood. She looked at me, then glanced at Caroline, then back at me. "Thank you," she said. "You are welcome." She hesitated, then asked, "Can I write to you?" I looked at Caroline. She was stone, silent. "If your mother says yes," I told Emma. Emma turned to Caroline. "Please." Caroline's jaw tightened. "We will talk about it." Emma nodded, accepting the non-answer. Then she stepped forward and hugged me. Quick, awkward, but real. I hugged her back, feeling her small shoulders under my hands, solid and present. Then she stepped away, and they left. I sat on the bench for another hour, watching people pass, feeling the warmth of the afternoon settle into evening. I did not know if I would hear from Emma again. I did not know if Caroline would allow it. But I knew this. I had shown up. I had answered honestly. I had not tried to fix what was broken with force or promises. I had simply been there, steady, waiting to see if time and patience could do what pressure never could. When I returned home, I opened the binder and added one final entry. September 15th. Met Emma. She is everything I hoped. She asked if systems could be fixed once they were broken. I said yes. I hope I was right. I closed the binder and placed it on the shelf next to the books her grandmother and I had collected. Over years of thinking we had time. 2 weeks later, I received a letter. Emma's handwriting. Inside was one sentence. "Mom says I can write to you once a month. She will read them first, but that is okay. I will take it." Below that, she had drawn a small sketch of a tidal pool. Creatures tucked into crevices, waiting for the water to return. I pinned it to the bulletin board above my desk and began drafting my reply. Not with promises, not with plans, just with this. I will write back every time, no matter what. Because that was the only thing I could offer that meant anything. Presence, patience, persistence without pressure. The things I had not understood when Caroline needed them. The things I was learning now, one letter at a time, one carefully chosen word at a time, building something that might last if I did not push too hard, if I let the system find its own balance. Outside, the garden was preparing for fall. The tomatoes were spent, but the soil was ready for cover crops, for rest, for the quiet work of renewal. I had learned this much. Some things grow back if you give them space and time and care without expectation. I did not know if my relationship with Caroline would ever heal, but I knew Emma deserved a grandfather who showed up, who answered questions, who proved that love could be steady without being rigid, present without being controlling. So I wrote back, and I waited, and I hoped that the letters, over months and years, would become a bridge built one careful word at a time. Because that is how you fix a system. Not with force, with patience. One small, deliberate action after another, until the water finds its course again.